Council member.
Welcome to the Lake Elmo City Council Candidates Forum, sponsored by the Stillwater Gazette.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, again, welcome to the to the Stillwater Gazette's forum for the Lake Elmo City Council candidates. My name is Marguerite Reinberger. Always impressive how so many residents show up. It's unlike any other city I've ever done. In alphabetical order, the four candidates running for two positions on the City Council are Julie Fleeflet, Jill Lundgren, Wally Nelson, and Michael Reeves. Jonathan Young, the managing editor of the Stillwater Gazette, will be writing up your responses, and they will appear in this Friday's October 24th edition. Each candidate will be invited to give up to a 1.5 minute opening, a 1.5 minute closing, and up to 2 minutes to respond to questions. While I assist candidates in getting their message out, I just want everyone to know that I do these forums for the voters, strictly for the voters. That's it has always been that way. As you know, two candidates who initially agreed to participate in the forum pulled out, Julie Fleeflet and Jill Lundgren. I felt that without their participation, it would be a lopsided forum and a disservice to the residents and voters of Lake Elmo. So I allowed them to change their minds even last minute. They were both on notice, and they did yesterday. To their credit, Mike Reeves and Wally Nelson were very gracious in understanding why it was important to me, and totally were in agreement that voters should get the opportunity to compare and contrast. And so thank you, all four of you. Now, Beth Johnson will be the timekeeper for the entire forum. She'll hold up cards, 45 seconds, 15 seconds, and stop. When you see the stop card, finish up what sentence you're in, or she will yell stop, and we've done it plenty of times, especially to incumbents. The Stillwater Gazette has provided the questions that will be asked. Please save your applause or any whispering, any emotions for the polls, because I want to get as many questions, and I just really want the focus to be strictly on the candidates. The order of who talks first and last is determined by reverse alphabetical order. So Michael Reeves will do the opening, the first question, and then you'll do the closing. Remember that you have up to 2 minutes to address these questions, and I'm going to do the 1.5 minute opening statements, beginning with Michael Reeves.
Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to thank the Stillwater Gazette for hosting this event, our moderator, and those in attendance. Reflecting on the news stories over the past month, I considered several approaches to this opening. If growth is a key campaign issue, then we need to understand the impact of what is likely the most misunderstood factor in this discussion: the memo of understanding between the city and the Met Council. Before joining the Planning Commission in 2012, I didn't pay a lot of attention to the nuances of city government, only what made the headlines. Frankly, I was stunned when I saw the details of the updated MOU and the looming financial consequences if the city didn't proactively deal with it. In the agreement, the city committed to 515 new residential sewer connections in 2015, or face fines of over $1 million in wastewater inefficiency fees. A key word here is sewer connections. The city had no sewer in 2012 and limited credibility with the Met Council. City government is much like a business, and that is the draw for me. A key element of sustaining your business over the long term is to understand your threats. And from my perspective, the MOU was the single largest threat to the city, and failure to deal with it certainly would have impacted taxes, property values, and quality of life. Our current city council chose not to play Russian roulette with our future and took actions which resulted in the termination of the MOU. So, keeping in mind we are still under the guidelines of the comprehensive plan, it is important for residents to know what each of us would do if we were elected.
Stop. Okay, thank you. Wally.
Good evening. I'm Councilmember Wally Nelson, and I was unanimously appointed to this position 2 years ago. I want to thank Ms. Reinberger and the Stillwater Gazette for hosting this forum and for all of you attending. I'm a lifelong resident of the St. Croix Valley, and I'm a 16-year resident of Lake Elmo. Previously, I've been on the St. Croix Catholic School Board, and I was a board member of our HOA at the Fields of St. Croix. Currently, I'm chairman of the Finance Committee for Lake Elmo. I'm on the Economic Development Authority on the City of Lake Elmo, and I'm a member of the Public Safety Committee. I'm a small business owner with a degree in accounting, and I have a knack for simplifying and solving problems. I view myself as a problem solver. My agenda is pretty simple. I'm going to bring you cost-effective, efficient government, and I'm going to protect you, the taxpayer. And that's what we've been doing here in Lake Elmo for the last 2 years. The successes over the last 2 years show you my leadership ability. Elimination of the Met mandate, $3.5 million in state bonding to improve our water quality. Growth shall pay for growth policies. I've been responsive to the problems and issues of Lake Elmo, from the growth issue, the library issue, all the way down to who's weeding the gardening in Lake de Montreville. I've been responsive. For those who know me and have watched me here, you know I'm a very patient and reasonable man. The bottom line is I'm always willing to listen with an open mind and come up with the best solution possible.
Thank you. Jill.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, for this opportunity. Several years ago, my husband and I were looking for a place to move out of St. Paul when we chose Lake Elmo. We were attracted to its charm and open space feel. Not long after moving here, the council decided to change the ordinance in the area which we live. I was disheartened with the council's lack of respect and response to the concerns of the majority affected by this change. It was at that point that I decided to get involved in our local government. Since being on the Planning Commission, I have continued to see the disconnect between the citizens' concerns and the council action. The council has approved ordinance changes and development proposals despite overwhelming resident opposition. As you know, I had grave concerns about subjecting myself to any further bullying, unethical political tactics that I have experienced since declaring my candidacy. Never before in the Lake Elmo has there been political climate which fosters the creation of a fraudulent website. I am confident with your experience and commitment to proper decorum will be maintained. Thank you.
Jill. Julie.
The opposition in this race has undergone a smear campaign, and the Pioneer Press even ran a story about these actions. The names JillLundgren.com and JulieFleetfoot.com have been purchased, and a fake website has been put up that attacks Jill. The people that did this also purchased a privacy service, so we cannot find out who did this without getting a court order. This is just one thing amongst a myriad of other things, including lies, deception, voter intimidation, bullying, fraud, and hundreds of dollars of signs being stolen. So at the advice of an attorney, Jill and myself originally withdrew from this forum. After we withdrew, we heard that the Stillwater Gazette had planned to run a scathing story about our withdrawal from the forum and planned to sensationalize this story in a way that could further hurt our campaigns. We heard and read many comments such as, "I wish these girls would not run and hide," or "I wish these girls would not be scared." So let me be clear. Our withdrawal was not because we were scared or that we were running and hiding or that we were taking the easy way out. It was a solid stand against this uncivil behavior and someone finally saying no and taking a stand against it. But because of the way our stand against this bullying and intimidation was going to be depicted and twisted, we are here today. And while I welcome the opportunity to share my message and views with the residents of Lake Elmo, I am disheartened that, again, nasty Lake Elmo politics and uncivil actions win out.
Actually, I am going to ask a question that of Julie that a lot of people have asked me, and I don't know, why did you not get a court order to find out who was behind the website?
I don't know that. We won't.
Okay. Okay, I'll begin my first question with Mike. What pressing concerns do you have about Lake Elmo's future, and what specifically, if anything, can you as a council person do to address these concerns?
My biggest concern about the future of Lake Elmo is carefully and respectfully managing the growth that's in front of us. We have the issue of being freed from the Met Council mandate, but we still are under the guidelines of the comprehensive plan. which mandates our growth and guidelines and provides guidelines for our density. I think going forward, based on some of the things that we've talked about, my biggest concern is continuing to practice fiscal responsibility, to make sure that our budgets are balanced, to make sure that our efforts are guided towards handling that growth. I think we have the issues of the downtown and Old Village that will be in that factor, but the fact that we have sewer coming into the Old Village finally gives us the opportunity to address that.
Thank you. Wally?
My concern is along with Mike's is the growth issue we all face here in Lake Elmo, but I want to go back and revisit a little bit. When this council was seated and elected at the end of 2012, what did we really face? We faced a Met mandate of 515 homes by 2015 and 1,650 homes by 2020, or faced millions of dollars of fines. In the Old Village here, we have failing septics, with people being under the rule of the MPCA to fix their septics. People can't sell their homes. What has this council done? We eliminated the Met mandate. How did we do that? Not only did we pass sewer to come down to the Old Village, but we passed a comprehensive plan that the Met Council okayed. The Met Council literally had to come out to Lake Elmo to see shovels in the ground and to come into a meeting at City Hall and see plans from developers before they would negotiate with us to get out from underneath that Met Council. Now, what have we done since then? We followed the rules. The comp guide plan is the rules. It's the rules set for us for land use, and that's what this council has done. We've followed that. For the most part, most of the developments are on the lower end of the densities, which is a good thing. In fact, on the 94 corridor, we're 68 units under the minimum, what we've approved so far. So going forward, what this council needs to do and continue to do is follow the rules that we've set in place, along with the financial policies that we've put in place to force the landowners and developers to follow through. That didn't happen years ago when bankruptcies happened. Now there are policies in place to make sure that developers and landowners' feet are held to the fire. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to continue to manage just like we have for 2 years.
Thank you. Jill?
Could you repeat the
Sure.
question? Thank you.
What pressing concerns do you have about Lake Elmo's future, and what specifically, if anything, can you as a council member do to address these concerns?
The future of Lake Elmo, I think, is in jeopardy because we are losing the open space feel in the developments. There was a 2005 comprehensive plan that has not been followed. In the 2 years, we've gone from $9 million in debt to $18 million in debt. 2013, we spent $516 million to get the downtown sewered, and houses still are not sewered. When I go out and door knock, people tell me they are still not sewered. Moving forward, we need to continue to hold the developers to assist with paying it, but with the 30-70 rule, the developers will pay 30% of some of the infrastructure, but the 70% of the roads, of the maintenance, is on the burden of the city. My concern is if we can grow slower once this, because the economy will downturn, we will be in a better place than by approving so many developments.
Thank you. Julie?
Well, for me, it's pretty simple. The biggest concern facing Lake Elmo is definitely growth, and I think I can say it very simply as well. I do not want Lake Elmo to turn into another Woodbury, and I know why I live in Lake Elmo. It's special, and it's rural, and everybody that I talk to says the same thing, that we're turning this into North Woodbury, and we just need to slow down, take a breath, and grow slower so that we can manage this growth and protect the residents that have lived here all their lives and keep Lake Elmo the special city that it is, because if we screw this up, we can't go back.
Thank you. And I'll begin the next question with Wally. If elected, what are your top 3 priorities?
My top 3 priorities would be, 1, continue our financial stewardship, which we have. 2, would be to tackle the library issue. We need to be back in with the Washington County system, and it'd be great to keep our local library, but we need to be back in the system. That's what I've heard from the residents. And 3 would be to continue following the comp guide plan, which has been put in place. And I just want to make a point that Ms. Fleetfoot passed that comp guide plan along with the council when she was a member of the Planning Commission. We are living up to it. I want to hear from these two how they plan on slowing growth. This is a 7 to 12 year build out from the current plans that we have in place. That's what people need to understand. These homes aren't going in tomorrow. It's 7 to 12 years of building. That gets us out to 2026 if we're on the 12-year pace. So it's not happening tomorrow. To the financial aspect of where we're at, which is important, my colleague pointed out some bonding we've done. In 2012, we had $10 million in debt with less than $300,000 of that secured by assessments or commitments. Today, we took on another $10 million in the last 2 years, all for infrastructure except for the fire truck in the streets, which was $2 million. Of that $8 million left that was bonded for, $5 million of it is secured or committed to by developers. We are watching your back. I've told you from the get-go that that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to watch your back. And that's what we will continue to do, is to make sure that we watch your financials and we have the right policies in place.
Thank you. Jill?
If elected, my top 3 priorities, again, would be the financial, fiscally sound policies that I don't think that are really in place currently. We do have a comp plan from 2005. I wasn't part of writing it, but many were, and we have gone out of the phasing plan. We have not followed the phasing plan. There was language in the comp plan to protect some of these larger subdivisions, such as the Forest and Stonegate and that, and where we have transitioned to these large parcels, there's no transitioning for these folks into the higher density that has been approved. So we are not honoring and keeping the promises that we have made to the residents, and we need to follow the comprehensive plan. It was written for that. The downtown needs to be a destination of all. We need to work for and with Washington County Library, and we need to get into the system. We need to be part of the Washington County Library, and we also need to keep that downtown library. With growth happening, we need a downtown library. We need it for the children. That's it.
Thank you. Julie?
For top 3 priorities, I think I would disagree that, I think that I would work to return financial discipline to the council. I don't believe that we are financially disciplined today. We have increased our debt from 10 million to 20 million in 2 years, and that's taxpayer debt. And you can't say, the only way that it is secured is if there's money in escrow. This debt is secured by the taxpayers. Let's be clear. If anything goes awry, amiss, this is taxpayer debt. I also feel that one of my priorities will be for this council to start listening to residents again. I watch these council meetings and I see petitions being ignored. I see governance by narrow ideologies and self-interest. I see items placed on agendas where residents have to be here at 11 p.m. or midnight just to have their concerns heard. And then when they get up to speak, they're cut off after 3 minutes, right in the middle of their making their points. And this has got to change. I also feel that we need to fix our library problems. I've heard from a lot of residents as I've been outdoor knocking, and will wholeheartedly work to find a positive solution for all library users. That includes returning to the system, returning to MELSA, and saving our hometown library.
Thank you. Wally, I'm going to ask you if you'd like up to a minute to address strictly the financial budget piece that she referred to.
Sure, thank you. The security is done through assessments and commitments down on Lake Elmo Avenue. The commitments on Lake Elmo Avenue have never been done before in government. We sat here and asked the administrator to go out and seek commitments so we could run the Lake Elmo Avenue line. We borrowed $2.5 million. He got us $1.5 million with the mayor's help and my help of convincing the landowners to come up with that money. That's something that's never been done in government before. And because of those moves, S&P and Moody's both said we're doing a good job. They increased our rating. We're borrowing the money at under 2.5%. I think we're doing a fabulous job. So when Ms. Fleetfoot says we need financial reform, go back a few years ago and see what we had there. A $4 million water bond where we're only making interest-only payments.
Thank you. I'll begin the next question with Jill. Given that
Do I get to answer priorities?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. How did I forget you?
Thank you.
Sorry,
'Cause
yes.
I'm over here at the end.
Oh, that's right. Raise your hand like this. This is
I
good.
can go farther, but
No, it's okay, Mike. Your turn.
thank you very much. I know I'm hard to miss here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna quickly talk about the three priorities, and then there's a few things that I absolutely have to address that have been said before. My top three priorities going forward would be the downtown and the Old Village, continuing to effectively manage our growth, and continuing to manage our finances. A couple things, though, that I really need to respond to. I think some of the things that I'm hearing are opinion versus fact. And let me introduce some facts regarding our finances. To say that we're not managing our finances is not true. We've had 2 straight years of balanced budgets. We're on our way to a third one, and we've actually reduced the property tax levy for 2015. As far as the credit rating, we've had Moody's and Standard & Poor's in the last 2 years increase the credit rating in this city twice, once last year and once this year. As far as the smear campaign, it's my understanding that both of you have admitted that Wally or I had nothing to do with that. So when you say smear campaign by the opposition, I'd like to know who that is, because it's not us. And I think it's dangerous and murky to start throwing out opposition in a race where the candidates are associated with that. So that's really disappointing that you'd bring that up here tonight. I think we absolutely have been following the comp plan, and I think it's evident that we have. And to say that developers are not paying all of the infrastructure, the Fifth Street corridor, as an example, coming through the Fifth Street, coming through from Keats to Inwood, $6.5 million in road, sewer, water, curb, lights, and landscaping, 100% paid for by the developers.
Thank you.
Taxpayer pays none of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple issues have come up now. Julie, do you want to address the financial piece at all? And then I do want both of you to have the opportunity to say whether, because in the paper, it said that you guys said that they weren't involved. Are they involved that you're aware of?
I can answer first.
Yeah, go ahead.
We do not know who did this, and in order to find out who did this, we need a court order. And that is what we said to the Gazette reporter when we were asked. We don't know who it is.
Okay, even though the
So,
statement said that,
Yes, we do not know. That is the bottom line.
okay. Okay. Do you want to,
Even though the statement in the paper said you believed it wasn't Wally or I.
We did not say that. We said, we do not know who it is. We would need a court order to find out.
I question on the table is, do you think it's us?
I have no idea who it is.
Stillwater Gazette, do you have any response to that question? Jonathan, was that question asked and recorded at all on their answer? when they asked, I believe, was it Alicia who interviewed them and asked, were they involved? And, the article said they weren't involved.
My recollection is that they said that their statement about the opposition being involved in a smear campaign was not specifically referring to Wally or Mike.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, Jill, time for a next question.
Oh, what's the question? I'm sorry.
Well, I'm about to give it to you.
Oh,
Hang
thank
in there.
you, I'm sorry.
Given that other avenues of information are available to inform Lake Elmo voters about their city council candidates, for example, the same.
Can you even start over? Sorry, Margot.
Sure. Given that other avenues of information are available to inform Lake Elmo voters about their city council candidates, for example, the St. Paul Pioneer Press candidate files, Lake Elmo Oakdale Review candidate files, Stillwater Gazette via both the candidate profiles in this forum and its subsequent write-up. To what extent, if any, should the city of Lake Elmo be involved in the candidate selection process via the dissemination of information to residents about candidates during an election year? And if you don't know what that's about, then just pass.
Should what? Repeat
To
that.
what extent should the city of Lake Elmo be involved in disseminating information about candidates running for city council?
City of Lake Elmo should not be involved regarding
And why not?
in the dissemination of information. Are you?
Yes, should they be involved or not? You have other avenues of information. Should they be involved, and if yes, to what extent?
I really don't know how to answer that.
Okay.
As far as in the communication that comes out, the source during election year, it seemed like this time the source was very slanted with campaign-type politics.
Okay,
About it.
okay, thank you. Julie?
I don't know that I have a philosophical opposition to the city of Lake Elmo putting information out about candidates, but I do feel that if they're going to publish information and have it be coming from the city, that they have an obligation to ensure that that information is accurate and that that information is fairly put out there. I think there were some issues with the source and the candidate profiles that were published in the source this time, so that's a good example of the problems that can happen when the city is doing that. So I guess I can address a couple of them. There was a question asked of the candidates, and it said years as an elected official. We were all asked the exact same questions in the exact same way, and we had to respond via email to these questions. And one question was years as an elected official. I answered honestly, 0. I have not held an elected position. I was on the Planning Commission for 8 years, but you are not elected to the Planning Commission. You're appointed. And when the source came out, it said years as an elected official, Mike Reeves 2+, Wally Nelson 2. I took exception to that because it's a document that I felt could influence voters, and our city knows that neither one of these gentlemen were elected to their positions. They were both appointed. So while I don't have a philosophical problem with the city publishing information for the voters to review about the candidates, I do take exception when it was incorrectly put out there.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
I absolutely believe that the city, as well as other newspapers and sources, should be publishing data and information. It's nonpartisan, and there's a responsibility to inform voters, and I think every opportunity to do that is welcomed. In reference to the checkbox about years as city official, yes, I misunderstood that about years as elected official. However, my statement immediately following that box said appointed to the city council in 2013. So if there was any inference there of deception, I think that's blatantly incorrect. If I misinterpreted the box, that's my fault. It's not the city's.
Thank you. Wally?
Yes, I agree that the city should disseminate this information. The source is read by all our residents, and it should be given, and I think it's nonpartisan. There's been much consternation about whether we're elected officials or not. I honestly put 2 years. I've been a council member for 2 years. Technically, I went back and asked the lawyer after seeing that there was a fuss about it, and he said, Wally, you're an elected official. You've been an elected official for 2 years. Yes, I was appointed to it, but I'm an elected official. So if you really think about what the question said, how many years have you been an elected official? 2 years, whether I was appointed or not. I never said I was elected. I agree I was appointed, and that's what I said at my opening. What disgusts me more about those comments is that I think there's a reverse smear going on. I have publicly, and I know Mike has publicly said, we had nothing to do with that website. We don't know anything about it. And still to this day, Ms. Lundgren in her literature is handing out a copy of that newspaper article talking about that website. Are you kidding me? You want to talk about civil and ethical? Let's talk about the issues. And you want to bring that stuff up? I mean, Julie, is it really a big deal that I was elected or not? You know I'm an elected official. This stuff bothers me. This is a reverse smear on Mike and I. I've been building my character for 52 years. You think I'm going to screw around with some website? No way. So I'd really ask you to stop handing that literature out. That would be the proper thing to do.
I'm going to ask Jill if she'd like to respond to your dissemination of information accusation.
I guess if I'm out campaigning and I'm not saying Mr. Nelson and Mr. Reeves made this website, here is Bob Shaw's article, but I'm not doing that, so I don't see any reason why I can hand out whatever I feel like. I'm not smearing anyone's name by that, and we've made it very clear that we've made it very clear. They've said they have no idea and that they haven't done it and they have no knowledge of it. I believe you.
Then where have you made it very clear? Where have you made
Where
it?
have I
Yeah,
made it
where
very
have you made it
clear?
very clear? I have to get some clarification on this. There's a lot
Well,
of
when
floating stuff going on here.
They ask us who it is. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know who it is.
Okay. Okay, I
know.
appreciate, yeah, no, I just wanted to know and get a clarification. And do you want to add anything, Julie? Yeah.
Sure. I feel like a statement like you should quit handing out the Pioneer Press article that talked about the smear campaign in Lake Elmo is like saying you should just sit there and take it. I mean, that's craziness. And I have not heard one word from either of you that has ever said, I have nothing to do with this. So when you say, I've been very clear, or we've been very clear, you haven't said one word to me. End of story.
Both you, up to 1 minute, and this is it, I'm going on.
Mine will be probably in 30 seconds.
Okay.
The site wasn't about you, Julie. The site was Jill's. And I contacted Jill the day that I heard about it. And I expressed my concern. I expressed my frustration with that kind of politics. I assured her that it wasn't me. I asked her, I hope you get to the bottom of it. She responded to me in an email in capital letters. I will get to the bottom of this. I supported her, and I expressed my frustration about it. I didn't contact you because it wasn't your site.
Okay, thank you. Wally?
I'm on record in the Pioneer Press with Bob Shaw. Had nothing to do with the website.
Okay.
It's pretty simple.
Okay,
I just would like to see this campaign on the issues.
right,
Let's talk issues.
okay.
Yes.
Well, we need to clear other things up so the issues can be heard, okay? Julie, select one action taken by the council in the past 2 years, just pick one, that you disagreed with, and what would you have done differently?
Well, I'll just group it into, I would not have approved 2,000 new housing units in the last 18 months. I mean, you can pick a development. I'm not singling out any there. 2,000 new housing units have been approved, or new units have been approved. And in perspective, there were 2,779 homes in 2010, the last census, in all of Lake Elmo. And to have approved 2,000 new units in the span of 18 months, to me, is completely unconscionable, both from managing that growth, to the impact it's going to have on the residents, to the debt we had to take out to put in that much infrastructure all at once instead of following a slow, reasonable, well-thought-out, and managed growth plan.
Thank you. Mike?
Well, since the question was what would I disagree with, I would really choose to address the fact that the number of homes that are in the 9 developments that are currently in process within the city are less than the amount of homes that would have been demanded by the Met Council had that not been terminated. And as has been pointed out here, those houses are coming in less than the low end. They're at the low end of the densities, and they are developer-paid infrastructure. So developers are paying for infrastructure that's directly related to those developments, not the, let me say that again, not the taxpayer. So to say that the taxpayers are on the hook for development for infrastructure that's there, the developers are paying for that. And I think the fear is going forward, and the risk is that if we don't build at a reasonable pace, then those situations do have impacts on what happens in the future.
Thank you. Wally?
I'm going to follow up with that to discuss this growth thing a little bit further. We need to understand that we passed this comp guide plan. Ms. Fleeflet was part of it, the planning commission, for 8 years. This slow growth plan that they're talking about, the comp plan, they want a slow growth, this is their plan. It was years and years of planning. We passed it. This council took the initiative to pass it. As Mr. Reeves pointed out, we needed to have 1,650 homes built, hooked up in sewer by 2020. We've approved 1,700 houses. This growth thing it's taking time. It's going to be 7 to 12 years. My whole point of this comment is that this isn't happening overnight, folks. It's going to be time. It's going to take time. It's 12 years. That gets us halfway through to the 2040 plan where we're at. It's being managed well, financially. The whole 9 yards is being done right, correctly. We took the comp guide plan and we're managing it. And it's tough for me to sit up here and take the fact that we need to slow growth when we've taken that plan that was approved by lots of people and passed us at council, and we took the initiative, and now we're working that plan with the rules, making the developers and landowners pay for the infrastructure, and we still get these comments about we're going too fast. Remember, it's 7 to 12 years of growth here that's on our plate.
Thank you. And Jill?
Can I ask a question?
I'll give it to you right after. Let me finish Jill, or it will happen like Mike, Julie, where I forget them on the end
Okay.
there. Go ahead.
So the question is, just one example?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not going to do growth. I'm going to talk about how I was very disheartened soon after, within 2 years of this current council, there was a petition brought forward by residents who lived around a lake area. And the lake ordinance time was changed, despite what the petition brought by 80% of the residents. It was just changed. And also with that was a high water mark elevated. So the DNR sets a high water mark for the lakes. That is what they set. And this city council did not listen to the concerns and the request of the residents again, and they raised the high water mark. So now in the lake, you can see some trees. Trees don't grow in the middle of a lake. That is land shore erosion that is lost. That's just one example.
Thank you. Julie, go ahead.
My question was just, are we actually allowed to not answer your question and instead respond to
Well,
previous?
okay, how I believe that the voters are smart enough to know when a question is being addressed. I mean, I could spell it out. I've been around 20 years in these forums, so, you know, it's up to,
It's up to us.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanna come
respond to
across-
something
yeah,
that
I
they
mean-
said, or we want to actually answer the question.
it's up to them. That's right.
That's what I just wanted to clarify.
That's right.
So that I.
Yeah, I'm not going to babysit
know
that.
going forward.
Okay,
And then,
yeah,
Can I respond to one thing you said?
okay.
And that is, I mean, I've heard it a couple of times now that this is a comp plan that I passed. I did serve on the planning commission 8 years, but let me be clear again that the comp plan and the land use maps and the staging and different plans that left the planning commission were completely changed when they got to the council. I mean, we had land use maps with prescribed densities, prescribed buffers, protecting the residents south of 10th Street was a main goal. That was all thrown out when it got to the city council level. So to say this is the comp plan that I passed, I would take exception to. I worked on it. It is not the plan that was passed from the planning commission.
Okay, well, obviously, this forum is politically charged, and that's why I'm real happy that all four of you showed. So, Mike, next question. What, if anything, should the city do to encourage or support commercial growth?
That's a really good question. I think one thing that I think we need commercial growth, because if you look at our tax base in an ideal world, we would be 70% residential and 30% commercial. And that's based on the amount of tax dollars used by residential versus commercial. I believe the number right now is probably closer to 90 to 95 residential and maybe 5 to 10 commercial. So we need limited commercial development. One of the things that the council did do recently, and it was pointed out as extending or getting outside of the phasing plan, is yes, when we approved the water line from or down Lake Elmo Avenue to the south end of Lake Elmo towards 94, which is about half collateralized and supported by lines of credit and cash payment. So about 50% of it's about $2.4 million, $2.5 million. Part of that, there's 2 residential developments there, but that is a prime area to start to do some commercial, which they cannot do without water down there. So I think the city has done that, and that was part of it. I think the other issue, the other areas that we have to work on is trying to keep moving forward with our downtown. Part of that is getting sewer there. Part of it is dealing with flooding and dealing with stormwater management, so we can create a downtown that has some business, has some commercial in it. I'm not quite sure what that is, but I think those are the 2 areas that we have immediately in our future.
Thank you. Wally?
Yes, Mike stole a lot of my thunder there with the Lake Elmo Avenue line, but that was, yes, we went to phase 2. The city has a phasing plan. Phase 1 is south of 94, west of Keats, and the old village area. Phase 2 is east of Lake Elmo Avenue to Manning, and then phase 3 is between Keats and Lake Elmo Avenue. We took a water line and went down Lake Elmo Avenue to serve phase 2, which is, again, Lake Elmo Avenue to the east of Lake Elmo Avenue down to Manning. And we did that for 3 sole reasons. One was so we could get water down there so some commercial developments could start. And by doing that, there's a piece in our comp plan that shows for about 900 housing units. Now, that's one way this council going forward can reduce our densities. That would be to take those 900 homes and turn that into a business park, switch the use to a business park, and that's what's been being talked about right now. So that would reduce our homes needed by 900, which would, again, slow growth. That's part of the plan. But with the commercial down there, we need the business park aspect of it, and that's why we ran the water. When we get to the old village and the downtown, what's going on, the EDA's been ramping up to get some things going so that we can help promote business, and we're just starting to scratch the surface of that. But eventually, when the rooftops come in, we're going to be able to revitalize that downtown. And that's going to start with the Lake Elmo Avenue sewer and street project that's coming up in the next 2 years. Once those things are done, we'll be able to promote business to come downtown.
Thank you. Quiet in the audience, please. Jill.
Yes, I agree 100%. We need to support commercial growth, especially along the I-94 line. That's interesting that we're 90 to 95% residential. That's very interesting, Mike. But I agree. We need to support this. We need to get some businesses down there. We need businesses in our downtown area. And it does have to be sewered, and it does have to be watered for people to stay, to come in, and to flourish. And I realize that we did go out of the phasing plan to get that done, but it is important for businesses to come into downtown and to stay into downtown. You know, we're losing one now, and it's really sad. We need to increase the downtown business area. I would love to see a farmer's market down there. I mean, there's so many farm fields around here. I don't know why we don't even have something simple as a farmer's market in the downtown area. But we do need to increase that, increase the business, increase the growth, especially along that I-94 corridor.
Thank you. Julie.
I definitely think we need more commercial for many reasons. One being tax base. It's well known, and this is where I have a hard time also with the financial points that have been made tonight, that homes do not pay for themselves. When you add homes to the tax base, for every dollar that they bring in and add to the tax base, it costs $1.10 to support that home. I'm not making up this figure. It's well known. The St. Paul Port Authority has published these figures. And however, commercial is the opposite. So for every dollar, it actually has a 30% return. So it's completely different than homes. And so I think we need some more in our town because that will help our tax base. I worked on the village area planning work group for several years, and a key component of that planning was a small, quaint, cute, viable downtown. We don't have that today. Residents want that. They want to be able to shop in their own city and in their own town and support local business. And we just don't have that opportunity today. So it was very disheartening when our plan got to council and it was basically thrown out again for the village area. The group worked really hard on it. We got a lot of citizen input along the way. We had developer input along the way. We brought all groups together to make these plans. So I definitely would love to see a small, viable downtown for the residents of Lake Elmo someday. And I would like to see some more commercial down along the I-94 corridor for many reasons, but one of them being adding to our tax base.
Thank you. Now, if I don't offer rebuttal time, feel free to just speak out loud and ask for it if you feel you'd like it. Begin the next question with Walt. Yes, Mike.
Just a comment about the old village. I believe one of the primary reasons that we don't have anything going there yet is that we don't have sewer. And we're in the process of dealing with flooding. And as far as the old village goes and the plan, we may get it into a discussion later about concepts of that, because part of the plan, if it is big enough to basically include two downtowns and moving in more of a grandiose, larger style, that's something that we need to talk about and we need to consider.
Thank you. I'll begin the next question with Wally. In 2013, the City Council took a public pledge to engage in civil discourse. What does Speak Your Piece mean to you, and how can the council improve the quality of its discussions?
Did you say improve the quality of their discussion? Thank you. Well, civility to me means that we need to act respectful. And I think most of the folks that know me and have watched me up here for 2 years know that's what I am. What we all need to work on is to be respectful to people all the time, at all times. Sometimes it's hard when emotions gets up, but we need to try to keep our emotions in check. But the most important thing in that civility thing to me is listening. We all need to listen better, or can try to listen better, and make sure we really hear what people are saying and what they mean. It's something I'm continually trying to work on, need to get better at. We all do, because listening is a key skill that allows us to communicate effectively if we understand what the other side is thinking and really what they're saying. So to me, the civility is about being respectful and listening.
Thank you. Jill?
Yes, repeat that question again. What is civility?
In 2013, the City Council took a public pledge to engage in civil discourse. What does speak your piece mean to you, and how can the council improve the quality of its discussion?
Speak your piece means to me that you are able and you have the freedom to speak your piece without rebuttal and reprisals and knee-jerk reactions, so that you can say what you mean. Part of that also is when residents come up on the Planning Commission. What we've seen is if residents come up and want to talk about an issue, we do not have a timer. Some people cannot talk well, and it takes them a while to get their thoughts through and to articulate what they want to say. So, you know, if we're here till midnight, we're here till midnight, but we listen to the residents. What is difficult at the city council level is there's a timer, and when 2 minutes is done, you're done. And especially, you know, I saw this when Father Burns was hushed during these lake meetings that we had. It was so disrespectful, and there was no civil discourse there because he couldn't speak his piece. Neither could others. They had a 2-minute timer going. I just think that if you have a concern, you bring it to the person and you say, I want to tell you I was not part of that website. So that when that happened, Mike Reeves contacted me immediately. And the other thing, when a sign was put up in front of mine that was an accident, he called me and said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean for that sign to go there, and I'm moving it back. That is civility. Sneaking around, stealing people's signs, making fake websites is not being civil. It is not being polite. It's not being respectful to anyone.
Thank you. Julie?
I would say that the Speak Your Piece movement was meant to try and bring more civil discussions back to the council table. I think that historically there's been a lot of problems with that. Some of the council meetings would, and relationships that people had with each other would get somewhat out of control, and it was an attempt to formalize some sort of structure around how can we bring civility back to the council table. I will tell you that one of the biggest things I hear from residents door knocking is that our Speak Your Piece and our civility pledge that this is on the wall in the Lake Elmo Council chambers is a bit of a joke. I think there's a lot of people who share that sentiment. So I do think much improvement is still needed. I do agree that it's difficult. Lake Elmo has a lot of big issues that people are passionate about, and that makes it hard. So I hope we can continue to improve in this area and move towards more civility, because I think much improvement is still needed.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you. I'm going to probably refer to a movie, The Legend of Bagger Vance, where there was a comment about golf, and it was golf is a game to be played but never won. and it's always being about better, and I would equate civility with that. It is a learning curve, and it is something that you'll probably never, ever, ever totally succeed in. I'm very proud of the fact that the city several years ago laid down a mission to improve our civil discourse. I have been frustrated with looking at governments for the last 10 to 15 years and figured out and frustrated with why they couldn't get anything done. Why is it about personal attacks? Why aren't we listening? It's terribly frustrating. So when the city did that, they asked me, I was on the planning commission, and I said, sure, I'll get engaged with this. So I was on the initial steering committee. We had 5 or 6 residents, some business leaders. We put together a plan. We made presentations at the Lake Elmo Elementary School. We had 6th graders come in that could frankly teach us about being civil. It was one of the most emotional experiences that I've ever had in the last couple of years to listen to them speak. I think civility is really about improving our governance. Sure, we need to get along better. We need to be respectful, absolutely. But I absolutely believe it's improved our governance, and I hear quite the opposite from people. In fact, the other night at our council meeting last night, we had 4 girls from Stillwater High School here doing a little project, and I asked them, I said, so what is the thing you noticed? And the thing that they said was, you know, I noticed how respectful you treated people that were here. I didn't make that up. That didn't come from me. That's what they said. And to me, that matters.
Thank you. I'll begin the next question with Jill. Jill, how do you envision the Lake Elmo Library's future in the surrounding area?
I envision that we continue to keep the downtown library open, functioning, and growing. I envision that. I also envision being part of the Washington County Library. I personally like ebooks. I can't get them now. So that is what I envision. The library board has different kind of governance than what is here, and I think those committee members should be allowed to really pursue and try and get back and keep communications open with the Washington County, so that we can get back and get functioning and be totally part of the Washington County.
Thank you. Remind the audience to basically not talk. Go ahead.
I think I said this in an answer to another question. So my goal would be to get us back into the county library system and MELSA and keep our city library as well. I think what we've been able to do at our library is wonderful. And I think that the volunteers at the library are wonderful, and they manage to do things without spending a lot of money, and they manage that budget. And I think all those things are just great for our community. But I do know that our library users have a lot of problems when they try to go to a library that's closer to them, or go to one by their work, or go from library to library, and ebooks are a problem, and many other things that, there's a stigma associated with our Lake Elmo library card right now, and we need to work to eliminate that for our library users.
Thank you. Mike?
We actually may have a subject that we may all be in violent agreement on, and that's the library. I have tremendous respect and appreciation for what the volunteers in the library have done. I wasn't on the council when those decisions were made, but I have great respect for the passion that they've exhibited. What they've accomplished is truly amazing. From a community gathering place, to fixing up the building, to managing their finances, to creating a sense of place in the downtown, for educating kids, for doing job searches. It's an incredible success story for the city. The other side of that coin is that we are a large geographical city. We have people throughout our city whose kids are in Matamidi schools, in other schools, that need access. A lot of people use their library not necessarily where they live, but where they're going to work, where they're coming to and from work. So I don't know what the solution is, frankly. Hopefully we can thread the needle and find a model, whether it's an affiliate membership, whether it's Bayport, Stillwater, it's something like that that gives us our autonomy, gives us the independence to manage the library and still have access to the parts of the Washington County Library that we don't have right now. That's a big thing. I hear that when I'm door knocking, is they love the library, but, they love the library, but, and I think we can try to do both.
Thank you. Wally?
Yeah, I think the number one goal in regards to the library is to get back into the system for all our residents to be able to use all the Washington County and county libraries. In saying that, I love what the library people have done. They've done a fantastic job. They've been frugal. We own a building free and clear. It's been fantastic on that side of it. But the one constant I hear at the door, I want my e-books. I want to go to whatever library I need to go to. It's cut and dried that no matter what happens, we need to get back into that system somehow. And we have been negotiating with the county, and they're looking at their library operations right now. So it has been an ongoing negotiation. I think someday we'll get there.
Thank you. I'm going to begin the next question with Julie. Julie, name me one issue or topic that we have not discussed that you would like the voters to know how you feel.
Good question. Well, I think there's some things in my closing that I want to address. I
Not
think
yet.
No, that's exactly. So, not that I won't get to them is what I'm saying. I just can't. I just can't say enough how much I personally care about our city, our residents, and our quality of life, and that I feel that our vision today on our council is not protecting those things. So while it seems like something we've already talked about, I don't think I can stress it enough. So I will use my time to state that again.
Mike?
It's kind of one of those where I'm glad I didn't get asked that question first, because I at least get 2 minutes to think about what I would say or what I would mumble through. You know, I don't know that it's anything that we haven't discussed. I think the issues facing the city are pretty clearly out on the table. I think we clearly have differing opinions of whether we on the city council, and I've been on the council for 15 months and on the planning commission prior to that for maybe a year, whether we're being good stewards of the city's finances and whether we're being good stewards of the future of the city. I think all of us moved here for the right reasons and maybe even the same reasons. And we may have different opinions of where it's going. And I think the way we discuss those is trying to understand facts and data and information. And that information doesn't lie. So I think what we continue to try to discuss is where is the path forward? Where is the best plan? And I think I think going forward, what we haven't really talked about tonight to any great degree for me would be we're incumbents. We have a track record. People know what we've done, good, bad, or otherwise, agree or disagree. I don't think we've spent enough time with what you would do. What would a challenger do if they were elected? And how is that different from what we've been doing? And where would that take us? And what would those consequences be? That might be the issue that we haven't got to as well as I would have liked.
Are you asking a specific issue or topic?
Well, it's really that topic would be, what would you do differently? When we talk about I can talk about how we've been responsive to residents, and people respect that, they appreciate that, but everybody doesn't see that. I don't go put that on my website that I went out and visited with neighbors and talked about how they're impacted by wildflower. I mean, I don't advertise that. So if there's an issue I'd like to see, it would be what would they do differently?
Okay.
Thanks.
Wally?
Yeah, the one topic that I guess I would bring up came up this summer when all our garbage days got changed. And it was brought to light in several emails if I was in favor of single hauler garbage or freedom of choice. And it's a simple answer. I'm totally for freedom of choice, competition, free competition out there. So I think that's a topic that needs to be discussed because it's important to the voters because there was some pretty intense emails we received regarding that change of those 2 days. So in saying that, I want to reiterate that I'm for freedom of choice. I'm not for single hauler, and I'd love to know what my competitors think.
Thank you. Jill?
One single topic, I guess, is why on earth during this election has there been such a political climate that has fostered such nastiness? I cannot figure that out.
Thank you. I'm going to drop the next question down to, I believe I start with you, Mike, right? Or where am I here?
Yep.
Are we, yep. One, yeah, because we started late, so I have one question, but I'm going to drop the time limit. I know it's quick, but literally a minute and a quarter, okay? How would you balance the needs of long-term residents and new residents as Lake Elmo grows?
Wow. If I could probably do that, I'm not sure I would be running for city council. I think the needs of long-term residents are very similar to the needs of people coming in. People may not totally agree with that, but I think the long-term residents want to preserve the charm. They want to preserve the specialty of Lake Elmo. It's why we all moved here. I think the challenge is going to be as new homes are built and people moving in, convincing them, and hopefully they move here for the same reasons, for charm. I think we have to be sensitive to the people that are here. We've had conversations with developers coming in, for example, in Wildflower and other places. You're moving into their neighborhoods. So we've got to understand the impact, and that goes back to what's been said before about trying to follow the comp plan with elements that would help phase that in.
Thank you. A minute and a quarter, same. Wally?
Yeah, that's a difficult question, and obviously, we all love Lake Elmo. We all moved here for a reason because it's charming. We have the open space, et cetera. And we are keeping about 70% of the city in open space, even with all this new development. And I think the developers overall are doing a pretty good job of bringing us good neighborhoods. And people are going to move here to Lake Elmo to be in our city and to come and join our downtown. I think the other aspect of balancing the needs of the current residents and the new residents comes down to making sure that the new residents and the landowners and developers out there pay for the infrastructure and that we protect the current residents from that growth. And I think we've done a pretty good job financially of that over the course of the last 2 years.
Thank you. Jill?
The need to balance residents' needs. Boy, that is a tough question. I think if the new folks that are coming into a whole new development as opposed to buying a house in an established neighborhood, that's a totally different picture, because if they're buying into an established neighborhood, you know what that neighborhood is. You know what it's going to be like 20, 30 years from now. If you come into a development that is not quite developed, you are not sure of what it's going to look like. You're not sure if the rest of the mud around you is going to be developed or not. If there's a downturn in the economy and it gets sluggish, that's going to be a difficult one to be balanced. I don't know.
Thank you. Julie?
For me, it isn't so much about balancing. I think it is ultra important to protect our current residents from the new development. I think that we need to make sure that our new development fits with what is existing in a cohesive manner. I think we need to implement appropriate buffers and protect people who have lived here for a long time. And we need to minimize the impact on them. People who are going to move here, move into a new development, or buy an existing home or whatever, they are going to make the choice to do that. The people who are here need a city council who will represent them and protect them from this development. So to me, there is a big difference. And it's not so much of a balancing act, because if somebody doesn't want to live here in Lake Elmo and doesn't enjoy the open spaces and the rural character and prefers a more urban, or prefers a Woodbury, or prefers a different type of city, then it's their choice. They don't have to move here and buy a home here.
Thank you, and I'll begin 1.5 minute closing statements with you, Julie.
Okay. So we need to bring some balance to our city council. In reviewing the 2014 minutes, Mike Reeves voted with Mayor Pearson 99% of the time, and Wally Nelson voted with the mayor 98% of the time. It's no wonder that Mayor Pearson is door-knocking for these two appointees that he chose and pressuring people to take down their Julie Fleeflet signs. I've heard from many people that feel his actions would be flat-out voter intimidation, but I'll let you draw your own conclusion. I read on Wally's website that the mayor had approached him and asked him to apply for the open council seat, and I've also heard that Wally has been a longtime best friend of the mayor's brother. This seems to me to be a good old boys club gone wild, and we desperately need some balance brought back to our council. Also, when you have approved 2,000 units in the last 18 months, considering that the entire city of Lake Elmo had only 2,800 homes before that, you don't get to say you're offering the necessary leadership to manage growth and protect the charm of Lake Elmo. And you don't get to say you're balancing economic development with rural character and open space. And this is what Wally Nelson and Mike Reeves have written in their candidate profiles on The Source. And you don't get to call yourself the taxpayer guardian when you've increased total taxpayer debt from 10 to 20 million and tripled the city's spending on street maintenance in the last 2 years. If you don't want Lake Elmo to be turned into Woodbury.
Stop. Thanks. Jill.
Thank you again for this opportunity. I would like to clarify that I am a proponent for planned sustainable growth and maintaining the open space field. The current council has approved over 2,000 new housing units, with more on the way. In 2013, our debt bond for sewer was $5.6 million in the downtown area. Still, homes are not sewered. A report commissioned by the Met Council states there are enough single-family homes in the metro area to last to the year 2040. If we grow slower, we are in a better place when the economy turns sluggish. Growth will pay for growth is not accurate. It is predicated on the sale of these homes. The current council has bonded over $12 million for these new developments. The only risk the developer is that these homes sell. But if they don't sell, the bond payment shifts to the taxpayers. We only sold less than 350 homes in 5 years in Lake Elmo. Say yes to responsible fiscal policies, to rebalance planned orderly growth, and yes to me, who will be respectful and responsive to our city council as your servant. Please vote for me November 4th so that we can try to preserve what is best while we prepare for this future. Thank you.
Thank you. Wally.
Wasn't going to have my close this way, but I got to respond to two questions. First of all, I won the Taxpayer Award, Guardian of the Taxpayer, voted by staff of the city of Lake Elmo. Secondly, I don't know Mike Pearson's brother, so I'm friends with Mike, but not his brother. And he did appoint me, or ask me to nominate myself, and I'm proud that the mayor did that, and to be on his team. It's your choice, Lake Elmo. You can move forward with thoughtful, collaborative, proven leadership like we've been providing here in Lake Elmo the last 2 years, or we can go back to the divisive years. I believe the newspaper article, Ann Smith said she wants to have the slow growth control the council. I'm not about control. I'm about listening to people. Over the last 2 years, you've seen what professional government can bring you. Policies that strengthen our financial well-being, borrowing that is secured, a budget that is cost-efficient, growth that is both reasonable and limits taxpayer risk, and most importantly, collaboration with other entities that get things done. From working with the state for the Met mandate, all the way down to supporting family means and a youth service bureau for kids, especially those in Cimarron.
Mike?
I'm a retired business executive, having worked with Deluxe Corporation and the Minnesota Wild. Most of my work experiences have involved organizational transition and renewal. My wife Kathy and I have been married for 44 years, and we've lived in Lake Elmo for 13. Like many people, I've been frustrated with the polarization and negativity that has come to characterize most levels of government. I was interested in public service, but never really thought I could make a difference. But my business and leadership experience definitely transferred to city government and are making a difference. I'm excited about what's been accomplished in Lake Elmo over the past 2 years, and I'm energized about our future. Last week, in fact, a group of Lake Elmo business leaders, 27 so far, endorsed Mr. Nelson and myself by citing examples of positive change. Does this election matter? You bet it does. Creditable, respectful, and effective government doesn't happen overnight. It is a result of leadership focused on fiscal responsibility, long-range planning, citizen engagement, accountability, community partnerships. If you believe our city is better off than it was 2 years ago, then I ask for your vote so we can continue the progress. I'm Mike Reeves, and I approve this message.
Thank you. Hang on. Thank you, candidates. First of all, I want to thank the audience, always the most attended for any city council and the most courteous. And I love Lake Elmo residents for that. Channel 16 will have replays on behalf of the Stillwater Gazette and managing editor Jonathan Young. Timekeeper and forum organizer Beth Johnson and myself, thank you all for coming and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.